Cheryl, welcome to the show.
Oh my goodness. I cannot believe I'm here and I get to spend time with the Justin. And that's a THE in all uppercase letters.
I love it. We got to meet at a line conference that we both spoke at back. It was just last weekend, wasn't it? Like it was like
Yeah.
8, 9 days ago, something like that, which is wild as time flies and doesn't fly at the same time. But you got up and you spoke, and I was just blown away by your message, by your energy, by what you brought into that room. And you never know. I've been to conferences where there's other speakers that they might be really great on stage and they're not behind the stage. And
Mm.
immediately you were this person who embraced everybody. You loved on everybody. You were really part of this event and really stepped up. And I was like, I got to have you on the podcast. I was like, after you spoke, I was like, oh yeah, she's definitely coming on the podcast, and just excited to have you here. But where I want to start, Cheryl, is who is Dr. Cheryl Wood today, and then we'll break down how you got there.
Oh, okay. So I always like to give like the personal side and the professional side because the personal side is really such a big priority in my life. I am a God-fearing woman. I am a wife. My husband and we have been married for, it'll be 19 years on April 6th, been together 24, and we actually still like each other most of the time, which is a blessing. And
Yeah.
we have three beautiful children together. We have two sons and a daughter. Our daughter is the oldest. She's 20. She just turned 22. And we have two boys who are Irish twins. They're 10 months apart. They're 18 and 19.
Oh my
So
gosh.
life is changing for us right before my eyes. So that's kind of like the personal side of me. I love family. I love spending time with my family when my kids are around and they're acting crazy or they're arguing. I love it because I know one day we're going to be empty nesters and that's going to be a different energy in the house. So I eat up all those opportunities. And then on the professional side, today, I am a woman who simply believes in getting more women to find the power in their voice and in their story, and to understand that their voice is really the missing piece for somebody else's breakthrough and transformation. And so it's not like this optional thing that the optional thing. It's a necessity. It's a necessary
Mm.
responsibility. And so I have my stake in the ground as it relates to that belief that every woman has a voice and a story that must be shared. And I believe that there's only one other thing that happens, one of two other things that happen. Either if you don't share it, somebody else shares it when you're long gone, or it never gets shared at all. And I just feel like that robs the world of, all the greatness that so many women have lying inside of them. So that's what I travel all around the world doing, empowering, equipping, teaching, educating, inspiring women to come to the front of the room. So many women are, they're like, oh, well, I'm introverted, or I don't have a story, or whatever the reason or excuse or explanation is. It's like, let's get that out of the way and let's bring you to the front of the room, because you'd be surprised how many people are waiting on you to show up and share that story.
Yeah, and I'm so glad that you bring this message into the world. Years ago on my podcast, I had a guest on named Preston Smiles. Um,
I know Preston
yeah,
Smiles.
yeah, yeah. So Preston was on the show years ago, and he had said
Oh,
something to me that stuck with me and continues to stick with me. And oftentimes I'll say it on stage, and I didn't add a line because obviously because of your message, and it kind of overlaps a little bit. But he said that at any given point, there are 75,000 people in the world that need to hear your message specifically from you, and how
mm,
selfish of you not to share it. And it
yeah.
was such an impactful moment for me because I'm like, how many people feel like they have a message, feel like they have something to say, but they're afraid to do it. They think like, oh my story's not as crazy as that person's. Like, why? Who would want to listen to me? Like, what kind of things do you hear from women who you speak to? Are like, I kind of have this message, but I'm afraid to. Like, what are you seeing in the space right now?
Well, I find that a lot of women, they don't always come out and say, I don't have a message. I feel like it's there, but it's lying dormant. And they use excuses to cover why they're not speaking up and coming to the front of the room. And some of it is comparison because they see other people and they're like, oh, well, my little story. And that's how
Yeah.
they reference it. My little story doesn't compare to that person's story. And I'm like, but you'd be surprised. Your little story that you're claiming is little, it will make a massive impact in the world, because there are probably more people who connect to your everyday story and journey than the people who have the big, huge stories that only maybe one or a few have that story or that experience. So imagine all the people that you're robbing of breakthrough and transformation because you're keeping that little story buried inside. So a lot of times they'll wrap it in excuses such as that. They'll wrap it in excuse again that, oh, I'm an introvert, I just like to work from the back, from behind the scenes.
Hmm.
And it's like, well, maybe this is a new season in your life where you're being called to the front of the room. Maybe that's been okay for where you've come and to this point. But all of us have seasons in life. Maybe this is your season to speak up, to speak out, and to really create transformation. And then sometimes they don't say it, but there's the underlying fear that I'm going to be judged if I tell my real, raw, authentic truth. Like people aren't going to respect me anymore. They're not going to see me as a leader because I had that failure, I made that mistake, or I'm still running in shame from something that happened to me when I was 20 and now I'm
Mm.
50.
Yeah.
So it's all these explanations, reasons, excuses, ultimately is what it is, why a lot of women don't come to the front of the room.
Yeah, you know what's funny when you start to share your story, whether it's on a stage or whether it's in a book, the healing process actually truly begins, right?
Oh
And
my
so all of a sudden you're not going to be carrying that shame from what happened when you're 20. Although we all have those moments where you think about something you did 20 years ago and like, ugh, you get that knot in your stomach. You know what I mean? That embarrassment follows you. But
God.
it's so true. Like the healing process begins. Is that what you see with these clients that you work with?
Oh my goodness. They end up being a version of themselves that they don't even recognize.
Mm.
And that's why I love what I get to do because I get to see them the way they come to me, which sometimes feels like they're broken, they're battered, they're bruised, and they don't feel like they have a voice to this space of they're calling me, telling me about their next event that they're hosting, the next book that they're writing, the next project that they're working on. And I'm like, do you remember such and such? And I'm like, I remember that woman that came to me and was this version, but look at you now. Like, do you even recognize yourself in the way that you are coming to the front of the room? You're speaking up, you're taking big risks, you're going for it. You've eliminated that shame that you had, or whatever it might have been that was the excuse. It is a beautiful thing to witness. And I want to piggyback really quickly also on the mention of shame, because sometimes the shame is not even a shame that is based on something that you did. So, for instance, for me, a lot of people are tend to sometimes be surprised that I share that I didn't go to college. I didn't go to an Ivy League, institution. I didn't get an Ivy League education. And yet, what you see behind me, I don't know if this is going to be recorded
Yeah.
virtually, visually, are these degrees. But this is an honorary doctorate that I received in 2019, Justin. You know why? And it
Amazing.
makes me so emotional because an organization, a university saw the work that I had been doing. They vetted me. They saw that I had been doing the work for over a decade. You had to have been doing it for over a decade. They vetted me and realized I had been ushering women into economic independence for themselves, into freedom for themselves, into creating impact and impact and legacy with their voice. And they decided that I should receive this honorary doctorate. So, yeah, I don't care if I'm speaking on stage for NASA, which I've had that privilege, or a big company, Capital One, Verizon, Prudential. See, these are some of the organizations that have hired me to come in law firms. I'm still going to tell the truth. My truth is, as a young girl, I grew up in poverty. I graduated high school, but I never stepped foot in a university. And yet, here I am, Dr. Cheryl Wood, because I have literally invested over a decade into pouring into others. And that was worthy of me becoming Dr. Cheryl Wood. So everything that's meant for you will come to you. I believe divinely it will be orchestrated that way. And this is just one of those instances. And so I could have chosen to hide and have a shame about the fact that, oh, I don't have a college degree. I'm not good enough to speak on stages, which honestly, for a while, it scared me because
Yeah.
I would be on stage. Look, I would be on stage speaking to people who had master's degrees, PhDs, they're mathematicians and scientists. And I'm like, God, I don't know what you're up to. I don't know what this is supposed to teach me, but I would be terrified. And then I would just remember, Cheryl, you're created in the image and the likeness of God. So guess what? You already are stamped as pre-approved and worthy of every stage, every platform, and every audience you get to pour into.
I love it. And that inspires me. I actually have a one of the things on my lifelong bucket list is to get an honorary doctorate because also
Mhm.
didn't go to college. And so it's always been like, and I remember in my early 20s, I was dating this girl whose mother was like, "Oh, he's not going to be anything. He didn't go to college." And it was like this very open dialogue, kind of right in front of me. And I was like, "Oh, that's interesting, right?" And then I remember the first year, I was like, "Oh, definitely made way more money than that lady." And they were long gone out of my life. But it was one of those things where I was like, "Okay, now the honorary doctorate would be really cool to just be like, hey, look, anybody can do this." So thank you
Yeah.
for being an inspiration from that standpoint because it's possible. We're good. This could absolutely happen. But I want to ask you, like, what called you to the stage? What was the thing that made you get up and start speaking? Because I love your journey.
You know what? Divine orchestration of things. I did not intend to be a speaker. Anybody who knows me knows I love people, but I don't love being the center of attention. Now, I have a twin sister, bless her heart. I love her to life. Baby, she loves the camera. She loves being the center of attention. She gonna be the first one up there on the stage. Me, I'm usually hiding out in the back of the room. And so it started because I was working a job as a full-time legal secretary in corporate America for these law firms. And I became a mom. Once I became a mom, everything changed, like your priorities shift. And I really wanted to be more present for my kids. I didn't want somebody else taking care of them for 12 hours a day. So that
Yeah.
kind of put me on my entrepreneurial path of being curious about what else is available to me other than kind of running the corporate rat race. So in 2009, I was like, you got to do something different if you're ever going to experience anything different. So just start something. And I knew I didn't want to chase money because I know, and I've read stories of people who chase money and you run out of steam when you're just chasing money. It has to be something
Yeah.
that you really believe in, you're passionate about. So I'm like, all right, I loved motherhood. Now, when my kids became teens, maybe not so much. No, I'm just kidding.
No, you're not. We got a 15-year-old and a 12-year-old in my house. So no, you're not.
They start talking back and having opinions. You're like, what? But at the time, my kids were babies. They were like 3 and 4. And so anyway, so I wanted to be more present as a mom. And so I started this t-shirt business. The t-shirt business was called Moms Are the Best. And I still kept my full-time job, but I would go out on the weekends. I would set up a table and vend at different events. I didn't know why in the ham sandwich I was selling t-shirts. I just knew, girl, you are never going to get away from what you know until you do something that you've never done before. Now, in hindsight, Justin, I was learning all some of the primary mechanics that are necessary to be a successful entrepreneur. I was learning how to invest in opportunities that would get me more exposure and allow me to market myself and tell more people about who I am and what I do. But also, I was behind the table explaining why did I start this t-shirt business? What did it stand for? What did it mean? I had no idea that that was really setting me up for what I was going to do years later. So I
Mm.
did that for almost 2 years and then unexpectedly and divinely got a phone call from someone at Morgan State University up in Baltimore, Maryland. I'm a native Baltimorean. And the person said, hey, we heard about your t-shirt business. We love that you're a mommypreneur. First time I'd ever heard that saying. I loved it. I grabbed onto it and started using it. And they were like, we would love for you to come to our women's conference and just talk to the other women in the audience about how you got started in business. Now, that was very ironic and odd to me because I was not successful in business. I was really literally failing miserably in that t-shirt business, but there was something inside of me that wouldn't stop me from continuing to pursue it. I'm like, okay, well, maybe I can do this different the next time, or maybe I can set the t-shirt up different this time, and maybe I'll get a different result. And that's when I had the boldness to say, yes, I'll come and I'll speak. And I was nervous. I was terrified. When I got there that day, which is September 18th, 2010, I was like, why did I say yes? Like I wanted to take my yes back so bad, but it was too late. I couldn't take the yes back. And that's when I had to like regroup and just say, you are enough. Don't try to get on the stage and pretend that you're somebody other than who you are, Cheryl. Don't get up here and say big words that you don't really know the meaning of because you didn't go to college. Just stick with what you know. And what I knew at the time was what it felt like to want something greater
Mm.
and to be willing to put everything in without all the answers. In fact, without any of the answers, but to believe in something greater so much that you are fearless enough to go after it with everything you have and realizing that the how it will reveal itself later. And so that's what I did. September 18th, 2010, I went, I spoke at my first speaking engagement and I was just me. And midway in the presentation, I remember just kind of like really coming fully present and looking out into the audience. And I could see the women taking notes and I could see some of them wiping tears from their eyes as I was sharing my story about what I really desired for my life. And I wanted to create something that my kids could look up to, to say, oh, my mom, yeah, she pursued her dream even when she was scared. Like I want to be the best model and example for my kids, not
Mm.
somebody else. And so I had to
Yeah.
step into action to make that happen. And that was the beginning of it. That speaking engagement, when I realized they were crying about my speech and they were taking notes about my speech. I'm like, what's happening here? But it was mostly how it made me feel inside. The fact that I could be of service to other women in the community. I was like, I want to do this for the rest of my life because I want to feel like I'm being of purpose and of use and service to other people for the rest of my life.
Yeah. There's so much power in what you just said from the standpoint of like saying yes, even though there's a part of you that wants to say no. The outward part of you wants to say no. You want to stay comfortable. You want to stay in your little zone. But there's you know when it's time to say yes. There's this tug or this pull. And yeah, there might be later regret as right before you step up on stage, you feel like you're going to throw up and whatever else comes with it. But like, how often in life has that come up for you? And you
Mm.
go, no, I know this feeling,
Mm.
right? And then you say yes and you lean into it because now you're speaking on stages with some of the biggest names in the world. Trent Shelton, Lisa Nichols, by the way, a former client of mine. So many of
Hey.
these people, right? Been, shared the stage with these incredible people. How important it is to you to listen to that inward voice, even if it's uncomfortable?
Mm. It's critical. It is not optional to listen to the voice and to give your yes. Because every time I give the yes, and most times when I give the yes, I am terrified. That's the honest truth. And people, when they see you get on stage, they see confidence, they see power, they see whatever the things they see, but they don't realize that for me personally, I have to talk myself into that yes,
Mhm.
because I have to keep reminding myself that I am enough, that I am worthy, that I belong on every stage and every platform that God places me on. Because sometimes you can get caught up into kind of comparison and feeling like, why why am I here? Like you got Lisa or Les or Trent or all these names. You're like, what the heck am I here for, God? And sometimes I find myself like in this debate or battle with God, like, you sure you meant to put me on this stage? And I have to really have like a come to Jesus conversation with myself, like, you are enough. When are you going to believe it? That you're here for a reason. You're here to gain value, but you're also here to give value, because your story is and your perspective is going to be different than anybody else on this platform. You may have similarities, but the way you articulate it, the way you experienced what it is that you went throughout your life, it's always going to be unique to you. And somebody in the audience, though, is going to be able to find themselves in that story and
Mm.
realize, like you said, the possibility of what they can do in their own lives. So every time I give a yes, it's usually a big, scary yes, but I refuse to opt out of my next level of greatness, my next level of impact, and my next level of service just because fear shows up. Fear
Yeah.
always calls the phone. It's always like, "Hey, girl, you know you ain't got no college degree, right?" Like it's always trying to remind me of what I'm not, instead of
Yeah.
help talk into what I am and what I can accomplish by showing people that you are enough, you are worthy, you are capable just as you are. So yeah, the yeses are still always they're a bit challenging, but I don't back down from a challenge. That's just not me. I'm a tough cookie. So I'm like, if I've done it before, I could probably do it again. And even if I fail miserably, I'm going to learn something from it. That's
Yeah.
how I'm going to get some information that I didn't have before. So this is either going to go one or two ways. It's going to be go amazing, I'm going to make a lot of impact, or it's going to go maybe not as good as it could have gone, and you will learn how to be better the next time.
Yeah, no, I love that answer. And people ask me all the time when I'm on podcasts or whatever, like, when's the last time you did something that scared you or made you nervous? I go, all the time. Every time I decide I'm going to do an event, every time I say yes
Yep.
to speaking at something, every time I sit down to interview somebody, like my whole thing is like, I want to cancel the interview right before the interview every time. Because you have like I really believe that no matter how much work we do, no matter how much better we've gotten in life, you're still always that 12-year-old kid in some way, shape, or form. That 12-year-old kid is still inside of you. And I was broke. I was kept quiet. I watched my mom's car get repossessed. And so then all of a sudden you go, 40-year-old Justin gets to speak at these events where then I get to go, who am I compared to these other people, right? Like
Yeah.
what's going on? And so my goal is always this. I went to an event where I knew all the speakers except for one. He was a celebrity chef. He was like on Top Chef and all this stuff. And I was like, who cares about a chef? Like, why did they have him speaking? Like all these things, right? And after he spoke, I turned to my friend and I said, I need to be friends with that guy.
Mm.
Fast forward a year later, he was on the show. He's a really good friend of mine now, like crazy world stuff. But my goal is always to go, I want people to look at me on the speaker list and go, who the heck is this guy? Who cares? And then for them to be like, that was my favorite talk, right? So that's always like the goal of like, how can I show up in the best way that I can and say like, hey, like we're all worthy of this, no matter where you come from, no matter what you've been through or the choices you've made, and you're a great example of that. And you continue to strive and get better. Like, what's next for you on the horizon as you continue to write these books and build a great legacy for yourself?
Yeah, I feel like all of us get to a point where I don't want to say we've accomplished everything that we want to accomplish, but we have come a long way in our journey. And I've come a very long way in my journey over the past 15 years. I've accomplished a lot of the things that I never thought I would accomplish. And it's almost like you get to a point then your life really does genuinely start to become bigger than you. And it becomes more about how can I help more people to live the life they want to live and to create
Mm.
the reality they want? Because I'm to a certain degree living in the dream that I dreamed of 15 years ago. So I want to continue that, of course, and I want to continue learning and growing, but I want to help as many people as I can to be able to step into the power of their voice. And if they want to get on stages, reminding them, yes, you can. If I can, you can. And then I'm also stretching myself. We were talking about this a little bit behind the scenes, and I'm doing things that I've never done before that terrify me, but I know it's going to grow me. So I'm going to be doing my first documentary this year with 8 amazing women who are sharing their story. I'm creating that space and curating that for them. I'm going to be producing my first coffee table book this year, which is again going to be able to give that visual aspect of the impact these women are making and who the essence of them will be shown in that project. And then I'm doing a retreat this year for women, like just things that I dream about at the next level. I'm taking the risk, scared and all, don't know the how. When I first talked to the cinematographer who's going to be, his whole production team is going to be helping me do the documentary. I know he probably was like, who is this crazy woman? She don't know nothing about what she's doing. Like I had done a little bit of research in Chat GPT, like, what's some of the reference points I should be mentioning when I talk to this person so they don't think I'm absolutely like out of my mind. And I was like, well, I do understand that. And I was probably saying things that was wrong, but he was so patient. He was so patient and he overall understood what my vision was. And I think once you have a really strong, powerful vision, then somebody who's more qualified than you can help you bring that to life. And so I've learned that in my journey to really partner up with people who are brilliant at what they do. And then I bring the vision and they help me to bring the vision to life. So I'm doing a lot more of that as I move forward and just stretching myself, continuing to be curious about what else there is, what's possible, and helping as many people as possible to achieve what they want in life.
Yeah, what would you say to somebody who, we talked about it earlier, but like the person who is like, oh, I think I have a message, but I'm afraid to step up on the stage. What would you say to them what can they do to take the first step in order to start to curate this life that you've been able to build for yourself and really begin to make an impact with their story?
Yeah, I think stop using that negative toxic language that I don't have a story or nobody needs what I have to say. Yeah, you're here for a reason. All of us are. And even if you can't put your finger on that particular story or reason yet, get in proximity to someone who can help you to do that. That's how I am in this place. I didn't do it on my own. I didn't figure it all out on my own. Yeah, I read a lot of books, but I kept myself in proximity to people who had a level of knowledge and awakening that I didn't have. I
Mm.
needed them to pull out of me what I couldn't pull out of myself. I think we probably all have heard that expression, you can't be the picture and the frame. You need somebody who's external looking in to say, here's what I see in you. And there were people on my journey who saw way more greatness in me than I saw in myself when I first started. Like you said, I kind of just saw myself as the 9 or 10-year-old who was still living in an inner city housing project who wasn't good enough. And nobody was telling me I could be a giant in the world. But somebody else looking on inside, outwardly looking in, could see that there was something special. There was these, oratory skills I had that I didn't even know I had. And I was doing things that I didn't know it had a name to it when I was doing. And so put yourself in proximity to the people who can listen to you, who can hear you, who can pull out of you what's inside, because you will never be able to do that on your own. I would start there.
Yeah. So do you think your speaking ability, there's a bit of something was natural inside of you? Because again, I was blown away not only by the words you said, but how you said them. Like there was a
Mhm.
great power in how you were delivering the message and your tonality. Do you think that kind of was a little bit natural, or is it something you've learned along the way?
I love that you asked that question. So I'll say this. I do think that I have, to a certain degree, a natural ability as a communicator. And I think that's what made me so successful when I was a legal secretary, because I could go and I could talk to the people who were in the copy room, and I knew how to shift my tone and the way that I express myself there, but I could also go into the boardroom with the board of directors and I could articulate, but I just didn't know it was a gift. I didn't know it was a thing.
Yeah.
Now, here's the great thing about that though. I will never forget. I coached under Lisa Nichols. She's one of my coaches. And the one thing she said to me was, you never want to solely rest just on your gift. You always still want to be responsible for developing the skill around the gift.
Mm.
Because if you don't do that, then other people will think they can never accomplish any level of what you do because you got the gift. So for me, that's why I've invested so heavily in mastering the art of speaking and knowing, intentionally knowing what I'm doing so that I can help others to pull that out of them. Because if I'm just doing something, I don't have a name for it, I don't have a system for it, a framework, I don't know what it is. How can I teach that to someone else who wants some level of what I've accomplished? And so I've made sure that success leaves clues. I've been under the tutelage of anybody who's a big name in speaking. I want to learn from you. I want to grow from you. Whether that's Les Brown, Tony Robbins, Lisa Nichols, Eric Thomas, the list goes on. I have invested very heavily to be able to master this art.
I love that. And I talk about the 5 people and the last one being a coach. And at any given time, you should be financially invested in your future. And I think a lot of people miss that boat. Like there is a really strong message in don't trust a coach who doesn't have coaches. And it's just like, well, what are you've reached a point that you feel like you're just complete and then you're done. Like I've realized a long time ago, and especially as I'm starting to get a little bit older, like life is finite, right? Like I lost 2 friends to heart attacks last year in their early 50s, both in great shape, took care of themselves, still poof, gone. And I realized that could happen to me, but my goal and my drive in life is to continuously grow till I take my last breath. Hence the growth now movement, hence growth being my word and all those things. Because at the end of the day, like if we just give up, like what's the point? Right? Like there's no point in moving forward. So I want to ask you how you grow. And I'm going to ask you a 2-part question. The first part is, what is your definition of success? And the second part is, what are 3 things you do every single day to ensure that success for yourself?
That's so good. Okay. I love that we didn't prepare for this because it keeps me on my P's and my Q's, Justin.
Didn't want you falling
Success.
asleep.
That's right. Success to me is freedom. And that's the thing that put me on a path to where I am today, is because I desired freedom. And specifically, I wanted time freedom, I wanted financial freedom, and I wanted creative freedom. And when I first started, I didn't have any of those. I couldn't wake up and decide or dictate what my day was going to be like. Somebody else was doing that on a job. And financially, my salary was being capped
Mm,
because I didn't have a college degree, a piece of paper that said I was good enough or smart enough. And I didn't want anybody to cap what I could generate. And then creatively, when I went to that job every day as a legal secretary, guess what? They told me what to do. There was no creativity. It was like, here's your assignments, here's what you do every day. And it was typically the same assignments every day. There was no room for exploring and curiosity and growth. So
mm,
for me, success is all about freedom. And then what are the 3 things I do every day? Okay, don't laugh. But the first thing I do every day is pray.
mm,
And that's not a laughable thing, but the next thing I'm going to say probably is prayer is such an important part of my life because I understand I'm not here on my own. And I understand that the doors that have been open for me, Justin, there's no way there is not a supreme being who is orchestrating that divinely behind the scenes. Because otherwise, my name would not be mentioned in some of the rooms it's been mentioned in, and I would not have been on the platforms I've been on. So prayer is big for me, but not only prayer for God, I want more. Like a lot of times people pray for the success that they want, the more they want. My biggest prayer is, God, please allow me to stay grounded and rooted as what I want manifests more and more. Because I've met a lot of people who get to a certain point and it's very it's hard to see that sometimes people change based on notoriety and wealth and all the things. And I just don't want to be that person, right?
mm,
I want to still be authentically Cheryl. I don't ever want to hold my nose up like I'm better than anyone else, because as quick as you get it, it can be taken away. So
yeah.
that's one of the things I pray about. And then the second thing that I do every day, this is kind of the laughable one, is I talk to myself.
Out
I literally
out
talk to
loud.
myself, right? Out loud.
Oh,
Everybody in my house knows that I talk to myself because I've got to be my own biggest cheerleader. And so I got clappers around my space. And they're over my bookshelf. I was hoping I had one close. I have clappers, I have pom poms, and I'm literally like a boxer in a boxing ring preparing for a fight. Like, girl, come on. And I'm like doing the little jabs, like, because I already know life is going to throw stuff at me as I'm on this journey of
mm,
making my life bigger than me. And so the only way for me to keep pressing through is I've got to remind myself that I am greater than every challenge, I am bigger than every obstacle, and that I have this resilience muscle that is just massive and continues to grow because I continue to work it. So every day I'm talking to myself. And then the third thing I do every day is I give somebody a speech because that is my gift. And Dr. Miles Monroe said, people take the greatest parts of them, the untapped potential, to the grave. That's the place where the masterpieces that were meant to be painted, the books that were meant to be written, that's where people take all those things and their hopes and their dreams because they don't execute in what their brilliance is and their gift is. I
Mm.
refuse to make the grave richer by taking my gifts there. So every day, since I know that speaking into people's lives is a part of my gift to the world, every day somebody's going to get a speech. And I always say, if it's not on a stage, if it's not on a podcast like this, which is a mini speech for those who are listening, then my Uber driver is going to get a speech. Or my waitress is going to get a speech. And if I can't find anybody else externally outside, then my husband and my kids are going to sit on the couch and they're going to get a speech. But every day, somebody's getting a speech because that's how I honor the gift that God has given me. Like, imagine somebody give you a gift and you don't open it, or you peek inside and you close it back, or you use it. I mean, come on. We wouldn't expect that. We expect if someone specifically chooses and selects a gift for us and they take time to present it to us beautifully, right? Because presentation is everything. And that's going to be something that you're going to consistently use to show your appreciation for it. So for me, that's a part of my daily rituals.
I love it. I love it. So I want you to fast forward in your life, hopefully 100 years from now, and you are on your deathbed, and everything that you've created, I want you to imagine everything you've created, all the books, all the content, all the podcasts, all the speeches, everything, it's
Mm,
gone, disappeared. And you can
mm,
only be remembered for one sentence. What would you want that sentence to be?
mm. That my life was about me, but it wasn't for me.
Mm,
Exclamation point. That's it.
I
Everything
love
I
it.
did, my life was about me. I went through the experiences, I went through the journey, but it was never, ever for me because I came back and I made sure that I used it to impact and touch somebody else's life and help them create their transformation.
I'm so glad we got to that statement because that was the statement that resonated with everybody at a line. And they would go
Mm.
around the room, "What's your takeaway? What's your takeaway?" And everybody said that. And I'm like, "What about the five people? Can we talk? Can I get a shout out, Cheryl? Cheryl, that line is an insanely powerful line, and it's beyond true, right? Like
Mm.
I realized that when I started to share my story vulnerably and open up to people and tell them about my journey, I can't tell you. I mean, I share the story about the one person from in Japan who said, because of your show, I decided not to take my life. That has
Yeah.
happened 6 or 7 times over the last 10 years of my life because of the podcast, right? So, like, imagine if I didn't show up. Imagine if I didn't share my story, right? So it's not, it's what is it? It's about me, but it's not for me, right? And so,
Yeah, my
like,
story is about me, but it's not for me. Yeah.
and it's so true. And like to everybody listening right now, like share your story, right? Connect with Cheryl and learn how you can do it properly and do it well and all those things. And that leads me to, how can people get a hold of you? What's the important stuff? How can they work with you? What's all the good stuff?
Yeah, I am at Cheryl Empowers on everything digital. So CherylEmpowers.com is the website, and Cheryl Empowers is my handle on everything: Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, and I'm Googleicious. So if you forget that, just type into Google Dr. Cheryl Wood and I will pop up. So I would love to connect and help anyone who is in a space where they know that there is a pulling inside of them to share their story, but they just haven't figured out the structure or what is the story because we have so many stories. I would
Mm.
love to be a support.
Yeah, that's always the hard. I feel like that's the hardest part. Like, there's so much of my life I don't share because it just doesn't fit into like where I ended up in the message that I share. And like, I'll tell people about like when I was a kid, I broke both my hips and I had 5 surgeries by the age of
Mm,
14, and like all these things. People are like,
wow.
that seems crazy. You should share that. I go, doesn't really fit in. You know what I mean? Like, it's an interesting thing, and I think that's a piece so many people miss. And the first time
Mm,
they get an opportunity, they'll go up and they'll word vomit about everything they've been through, right? I always like to say a lot of times when speakers start, if they haven't gone through some sort of training, they just go up on stage and they bleed all over everybody. Like, this is all my pain,
yes,
and they're just bleeding all over the place. And
yes.
I'm sure I've been guilty of that. And it's just the reality of where you start, and then you find out, oh wait, it's not for me, it's for them. So I have to really switch and change all that up. And like, I just love what you do. I think it's super important, which gets me to my last question. I end every single episode with the same question. I've been doing it for 10 years. Since the show is
Mm,
called The Growth Now Movement, that question is, in your life, what has been your biggest moment of growth?
mm. I love your questions. Let me think on this one for a moment. What has been my biggest moment of growth?
Yeah.
That makes me emotional, Justin. I think my biggest moment of growth was the first time I stepped on a stage and I didn't say, why me? Instead, I was like, why not me? And I
Mm.
realized that I belonged there. It wasn't by accident, it wasn't a mistake. I belonged there and I had worked my butt off to be able to belong in those spaces and to be worthy of the opportunities. My biggest moment of growth.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Cheryl, thank you so much for being you and doing what you do. It's such a important, impactful thing that you are doing. And I can't wait to see where it goes for you in the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years as our friendships get closer. And just thank you so much.
Thank you for everything you do. And I can't wait to see you in April because I'm coming to that conference.
Let's go. I'm
Let's
excited about it.
go. I
I
will
love
be
it.
there.
Cheryl, thank you.
Thank you for having me, Justin.